出来在南卡的 Bretonville， 完了之后在这个 historical Bretonville 要去看剪羊毛。这个地方6月底7月初的时候有一大片的那个向日葵田，现在呢因为向日葵还没开，所以人今天还不算太多。完了，现在是11点多，12点就有剪羊毛。这是5月份，所以5个月的4个周末，它都有不同的活动。这周是剪羊毛，下周就是卷羊毛，再下周是缠羊毛，最后一周是染羊毛。我打算都来看看。就200年吧。好看吗？
在这儿呢。19。听见羊叫。你看，就在那儿。那不羊吗？
它抗了不了，您给它来点草，喂一下它。你捡点儿，你揪一点儿。嘿，小羊羔羔。来了，你想吃这个？
这个来了，
那你吃吧。可爱的。你们是有小sheep。
这个不吃哈，要草，这是草。不是草不吃，籽儿不吃。
可爱的。
又来一个，你也吃吗？here，这边。
哦，可爱哟！你们就真的是跟小狗小猫一样，都是那样可爱爱的，是吧？哎呀呀呀！好好好，给你再来一个。嘿嘿嘿嘿。
吃完了以后，
给你再来一个。
都是导出。
给你再来一个。
慢慢消化，第2个胃才消化。
你们先吃进去，完了之后慢慢消化的时候，去外面，去侧面那儿慢慢消化去，找到第2个胃。哦，给。你们还吃呀？给你们吧，给你吧。小羊，给小羊羔羔，little one， 好吃哦。嘿 ，little one， 应该给它们放出来，把这野草都吃干净了多好，就不用剪了。你们里面都没有草了，全都被你们吃光了，就想吃外面的哈，小羊羔。
哎呀，草都吃没了，都过来了哈，哇，呀，
真的是里面通通的。哎，小羊羔，你吃吗？小羊，耶，耶，可爱呀。
2个羊吗？
这面是新剪的羊毛，完了就好像一只羊皮的样子，但是是羊毛，没有皮。摸一下，还带温度的，好软呀。这好像是，哇哦，天哪，好脏呀！这里面，这是外面。这是外面的，
这是外头，这是贴皮。
哦，这是里面，等于这是贴羊皮的那层，外面这个是脏的，这个，哎呀，所以得洗，所以这儿就是暖和的，好暖呀，温温的。这是他们
披下来的温度，
这是他们在接水，接完水去到那个炉子里去烧水，完了之后去洗羊毛，好有意思。
都洗完了。洗完了，怎么没见？
肥皂。That's their soap, and then it's cleaning after shearing it. Oh, they are cleaning those wools with hot water and soap, and then rinse it, and then go to dry it just on the grass. That's very interesting.
Yeah, we're trying to get the what's it, linen?
Lanolin? Yeah.
Lanolin
So
out?
if you want to, you can touch it. It's really dirty, but you can kind of
Okay.
feel it's a little gritty feeling.
Okay, so you're trying to clean not the dirt. What are you putting?
Yeah, the dirt. But so there will still be pieces of grass in there. But the color will be brighter, so it'll be clean that way. And the lanolin will be out of it. And so the next step once it's dry is to card the wool, so we can
teeth, bristles. You're basically passing it through. It makes it all in one direction, and that's what allows you to then go and spin it.
Interesting. 这个是洗过的羊毛，是应该算是干净了，但是貌似也还不太干净。这是不是得到最后他们纺的时候才能干净？啊，这两只就是刚剪完的，他们估计还有点心理阴影，所以不乐意合群儿。
绵羊怎么还长尾巴呢？绵羊是这么大的圆尾巴，你看这跟狗尾巴似的。
他们过来了，那只刚被剪完毛的，好像也克服了心理阴影过来了。它明显比别的羊们瘦了一大圈儿。果然，减肥的方法除了减肥之外，还可以剃毛。好啦，我们要开始剪羊毛的工序了。人开始往这个羊圈走。Which one is the lucky one? Wow! Everybody wanna come.
喂饭来了。
哦，
喂饭来了，哎呦，
这只 they don't wanna be cut.
哎呦，
这跟
啊，
这有点像抱着狗去洗澡的感觉。
啊，给他们，要不没法逮。
对，
Sweetheart.
哇哦，
Time for your pedicure and makeover.
哦，这真的是有一种像是抱着狗去洗澡的狰狞感。Oh, you will be here, sweetheart. Hey, sweetie.
Yeah, you're good.
You're very cute.
He's like, oh my god.
It's okay. Wow.
Alright.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ew.
Calm down.
看一下，往那头儿
Do what now?
有点，哇，有点儿，
Yeah, so if y'all want to, now let's make this a little easier.
哇，这就有点像给小狗。
You good, sweetie? Good job. How are y'all doing today?
They're
Get a
good.
little rowdy. This is the first time she's ever been sheared, so
Yeah.
she's not really used to it.
How old is she?
Born last year. So of course what you see, we're using an 18th century technique where they shear them on their sides. If you look at modern day sheep shearers and starting in the late 1800s, a lot of them will have them on their butts to start with and pretty much shear them on their butts. But for us, it's just a lot easier for us to do it this way. Yeah.
Do they ever get vicious?
The first year ones, like I said, they just don't know what's going on. So they're kind of this. Now these are prey animals, so sometimes they'll eventually just calm down. It's just naturally in their nature to calm down, and the reason why that is because, you know, being a prey animal, they want to give it that fight early. We're seeing in all kinds of prey animals. I don't know if you ever like to watch the videos of, like, you know, lions attacking gazelles and stuff like that. You know, normally they'll just give up on the fight. And that is because these guys are flock animals. And so being a flock animal, you know, she was invented to feed stuff. In early America, and especially over in England, New Zealand, and places like that, you're primarily, you know, they're feeding wolves, But these are very special to us. These are Gulf Coast native sheep. There's less than 2,000 of these left in the United States now and throughout the world. These were brought over from Spain. They were dropped off. Louisiana, Mississippi coastline is where they first originated from. And in early America, we didn't have any fence lines for our livestock. They let them run wild. And so these things were left to run wild in southeastern United States. Their numbers increased all the way to about 300,000 right before World War II. And through being raised in the South, they became extremely parasitic and disease resistant. I ran this flock for over 5 years and never once treated it for any kind of worms, never treated for any kind of, never treated them for anything. And it's just through natural selection that they were able to gain that resistance. And so these are primarily the only sheep that you could raise in southeastern United States because we have so much of a hot climate here. Another bad thing is what we worry about is a thing called hoof rot. And that's where they'll get a bacteria infection in their hooves, cause a nasty sore. And you got to figure if you walk on your feet all the time, and you get a sore on your hoof, it'll cripple them, and in turn could be very detrimental later on. Another reason why there were so many sheep is because sheep wool was really highly desired in early America. We look at even in World War II, all the military uniforms, officer and enlisted guys' uniforms were made out of wool. But then after World War II, a couple things happened. For one, the latest and greatest invention called plastic was invented and polymer-based products. And so we saw a lot of synthetic fibers like polyesters and stuff coming in the scene. So there's less desire for wool, and also the military were starting to switch over most of their uniforms over to a cotton-based material. Secondly, we had modern-day husbandry came into play. So they were able to treat these sheep for diseases with medicine. So they were able to bring in a sheep that would produce more wool. And so that's the reason why these sheep kind of went downhill. They only produce about 4 to 5 inches of wool per year. And if we look at modern day sheep, and their wool production is between 10 and 12 inches per year. So a farmer, because there's such a fine line between success and failure, farmers didn't have much of an option but to switch over to a sheep that produced more wool. Now, when that happened, their popularity dramatically decreased to the point where they became critically endangered in the United States. Like I said, Livestock Conservancy rates these as yeah, you're fine.
It's okay.
She has a baby in there, so
Oh.
she wants to know what's happening to her baby. So Livestock Conservancy rates these guys as critically endangered. And through conservation efforts like we do here at Historic Braddonsville, we're able to maintain this breed of sheep.
It's okay, baby.
小雨安在那头笑啊。
You're calling the bark.
Yeah, this is your favorite type of wool. This is a virgin wool, so this is the first time she's ever been sheared.
哦，这是第一次的羊，所以这个羊毛最好了，这叫处女羊毛，第一次养，第一次的毛。
Good girl. Good girl.
Oh, cute.
干嘛剪一半？
没有，那半得专门。
No, I know. Tell your baby. She's right here. You hear a baby in there?
嗯哼。
Yeah,
I'm okay.
She's right over there. She's fine. So another thing we look at here, of course, is these sheep are primarily white sheep. If you see the lambs, they're all white. Early America, they love to have white sheep, and the reason why is because it dyed evenly. So if you had a flock of 50 or 60 and they're all the same color, no matter how you dyed it, the wool would come out the same color. You notice a lot of times people say, oh, they're not white, they're yellow. Well, if you look at the orange yellow tint you see in here, this is a product called lanolin. Now, we familiarize ourselves with that nowadays as anti-aging cream. If you have babies, if they have diaper rash or whatever, lanolin works really good. It's an oily substance. They have it for 2 reasons. They produce it for one, it's an antiseptic. So if they get cut or scratched, they already have pretty much neosporin on them. But mostly what it's really designed for is make them waterproof. Sheep are very, very susceptible to hypothermia. So if their wool got wet and then the wetness got down to their skin, it could cool them down dramatically. It cause them to, like I said, it could cause them to freeze. And so this keeps the base coat of their wool dry. And if you see them over there, of course, they're cleaning that wool right now. But that's the same process of how you want to get the lanolin off. When you wash it in that water, once you took the, that oily substance on here would turn into a liquid form. And then after you washed all the wool, then what you would do is you would skim out all the imperfections, the little tree branches and stuff like that in there. And then they would just boil that water down until nothing was left but the lanolin. And the good part about lanolin too is lanolin is it keeps forever. So what we're gonna do is just flip her right over. She loves you. And for the kids, just to let you know, what you see here is not what you see going on here is not Raisinets or no kind of chocolate over here. Yeah, you're fine. You're halfway done. So of course we're using a traditional set of hand shears. You'll still see people today use hand shears. They're a lot quieter than electric shears, so it don't really freak them out as bad. If we look at New Zealand and stuff like that, you even see competitions still where they use hand scissors. Now, a good shearer with a set of hand shears, competition-wise, they can do it in about 5 to 7 minutes. For us, we can do it in about 20 to 30 minutes. But with a set of hand shears, they can do it in just a matter. With electric shears, they can do it in a matter of about 2 minutes. So super quick. And now their wool is on them. Woolly animals shed their wool once a year, but the problem is the wool gets tangled into the new growth. And then so therefore it's really hard for them to remove that wool off their coats. And so, they'll just continue to grow that wool. A couple years ago, there was a sheep that was found that hadn't been sheared in over 5 years. And when they sheared them, it was over 70 pounds worth of wool on them.
Wow.
People always ask me, do they like this? I've never smoked sheep before, but I can only imagine in the South here, as hot as it is. Now the difference between a great shear and an ugly shear is about 3 weeks. So after you shear them, they'll immediately start growing their wool back. So even if it's not the prettiest haircut, you won't tell the difference in about 3 weeks. Yes, sweetheart. I know. You're good. You're doing great. Now, of course, what we do is we raise them for ourselves, but we also raise them for other historical sites and other sheep growers. Myself and Aaron Honeycutt, within Gulf Coast sheep, they have sublines in there. Like, you have dogs and then you might have different types of dogs. Well, within Gulf Coast sheep, there's 5 major bloodlines. And we raise Holt lines. Just me and Aaron Honeycutt are the only ones in the United States that have a closed flock. They're just Holt lines, and Holt lines are the most traditional of all of them, most native of all of them. You'll see them, they're not really big sheep. When we shear them, a lot of people say, oh my goodness, do you even feed this animal? But it's just their body structure, how they are. We see it also, like if you look at like what they call cracker cows or piney wood cows that would grow up in the southeastern United States, because they had such poor quality of food that once again through natural selection they grew a smaller frame to them. You're almost done. Yeah. Now you also see how much dirty this stuff is. Now that in the washing process it'll remove some of that, and then another process they'll use is what they call carding wool, and that's where you take a series of paddles and what you're doing is 2 things. You're making all the fibers go in one direction, and then also what you're doing is removing a lot of these imperfections you see in here. Wool is an amazing product. I like it because there's no environmental impact. It's actually a really great mulch to put in your garden because not only will it retain the moisture, but also gives the insulation property. So in those cooler nights, it keeps the soil a warmer temperature.
那时候把这个能当帽子在铺在那土上，会不会有点奢侈？他说这样的话就能保温，完了之后又能锁水。你别等会儿过去。你要干嘛？哦。
We're also seeing a resurgence in the popularity of these breeds, and that's because there's little maintenance to them. They pretty much all natural births, like I heard here.
他说3个礼拜之后就能长的
I've seen we do now. There's a couple people that are part of the Gulf Coast Youth Association that uses them to make, bilks them, but they really don't have many big bags. So wool production for the girls, the boys it definitely would be meat. But of course, we'll see documentation that all through history where the boys would be used for either lamb or mutton.
Doing great. 真的又洗了个澡，又剪了一个肥。
Doesn't seem like the South was great.
No, not at all. And you know, they acclimated to the southern climate. That's the reason why they have left wool. You notice they have hair on their legs, hair on their bellies a lot, hair on their face. So they've lost that just massive amounts of wool quality. Let me get her pork chop right here. Don't want her to be laughed at when she goes back into the flock. So
Okay.
You notice how small she
Wow.
was. Look how small she is now.
Wow, you're so small. 蹦回去了。
Probably 2 pounds worth of wool here.
How many pounds?
2 pounds.
2 pounds.
On average, I'll do about 3 pounds of wool per sheep.
And I touch it.
Yeah.
And that's
you
probably
take
the
your-
warm part.
And if you take your fingers and rub it, you'll see that you'll feel the lanolin in it.
Oh yeah.
See all that
yeah,
grease
I
in
see. It's very interesting. So when you wash it, you trying to get rid of this lanolin?
2 things, and that she brought up a good question. When we wash it, are we trying to get rid of the lanolin? And we do, because back in the day they would call it spinning dirty. And if you didn't wash the lanolin when you're using your spinning wheel, it would clog up all the spinning wheel. It would just become real greasy and dirty. And so you would have to constantly clean out the mother of all, which is the mechanism on the front part of the spinning wheel. All the bobbins and stuff like that would get just get coated with the stuff. So you definitely in the cleaning process, you're trying to get rid of that lanolin for that. And then what they realized was that that this had good skincare products, or it was very good for just your overall moisturizing your skin. And that's when they started capturing this lanolin.
How can you keep it?
So once you so once again, the mechanism is put it in a pot of water. You don't want to get wool over boiling point, because what you'll do is you call felting wool.
Okay.
See, my hat's made out of felt, so it's real stiff. Whereas like his pants, or my jacket is pliable. In that process, that lanolin turns into liquid, and then it lanolin doesn't mix with water. So then when you pull all of this washed wool out of that water, now you're left with the imperfections, and then you're left with the water and the lanolin. So you would skim that water to get all like the little pieces of leaf and poop and stuff out of it. And at that point, you would just boil that water down until you're left with just lanolin. Once you had just lanolin, and it dries, it almost looks like a waxy substance. And it lasts indefinitely, so it doesn't have any kind of expiration date. And it's just a really great product, because it's also good. Like I said, if the sheep ever get nicked or you had a cut on your arm, or you could put that lanolin on there and it would work as an antiseptic.
Wow.